Oh man, I'm so really funny when they introduce me like that. Okay, all right, look, we're gonna do something. You guys have been in here all day. Stand up. Stand up for a second. Give me some of, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna selfie while you guys do this. Start by going like this. Do it again. Okay, louder, much louder. You gotta give me way more than that. Until you're ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now laugh. Laugh or something. Go. Okay, now smile for the camera. We're gonna selfie. Okay, good. Thank you so much. I love you so much for that. Thank you. Okay. All right. For real though. All right. My name is Matika, and I'm from the Swinomishi Tulalip tribe. And I'd like to start by saying good afternoon to each and every one of you here, from the doorway in to the doorway out, including the ancestors of this land, the Ohlone people. I raise my hands to you, Tigwitsid Siaya, as they say where I'm from. I'm so grateful to be here with you today, really, among such incredible thinkers and positive people. I've been so uplifted by everybody that's gone before me. So thank you for inviting me, Phenosha and the kidlets, or you're not kids, you're growns, but you know what I mean. Thank you. So, since there has been so much talk of representation today, we're gonna skim over some of the things that I normally go through, because I have so much to share with you today. And you know, I always like to say before I begin, I like to just take a moment to acknowledge my elders in the room, and just tell you that, you know, I'm young and I'm still learning yet. So if you think there's ways in which you think I should reshape some of the things that I'm saying, I really would like to welcome your input. So I wonder, you know, can we learn to see as human beings? Does the image actually affect our lives and the lives of those around us? And if it does, can we use that image to inspire and encourage one another? Now, I know we've been talking about this all day, but do me a favor, close your eyes, try to remember the last time that you went to a Blockbuster released film and saw a Native American. Just try to think of it. What was it? Is this what you saw? Because between 1990 and 2000, there were nearly 6,000 Blockbuster released films, and only 12 included American Indians. All of them portrayed Indians as being spiritual or in tune with nature. 10 showed Indians as warrior-like. 10 as impoverished, desolate, or beaten down by society. But representations of Indians as lawyers and doctors and your contemporary were largely absent from these films. What's interesting to me, really, is how that misrepresentation manifests itself into our psyche. You see, when these same images are shown to our young native minds, they report having lower self-esteem and feel depressed about what they are able to become or want to become. What's shocking is when this experience happens to the white counterpart, their self-esteem is raised. My work is all about changing this experience. So for the last 10 years, I've been working as a photographer, and what I do is I seek the positivity in Indian country. I look for our heroes. We have them. They're here today. They are walking among us. My most recent endeavor, Project 562, is dedicated to photographing every one of the 562 federally recognized tribes in this nation. I set off on this journey 3 years ago, and so far I've put like 160,000 miles on my car. I've touched down in over 35 states. I've shot hundreds of rolls of film. I've visited like 280 tribes. I've been doing all the bucket list things that we talk about: Crow Fair, Gathering of Nations, Ghost stand, Sundance, I was in Alaska, I went to Celebration, I went on the Canoe Journey, I went into the Great Law Recital, I just came from Mardi Gras with the Mardi Gras Indians. I have been going through it. And in each community that I visit, I interview and photograph several people. I ask them questions about stereotypes and identity. What does it mean to be a real Indian, I ask. How do you feel about blood quantum? What efforts is your community taking to uphold sovereignty? But mostly, can you tell me your story? Such as this one. This is Leon Grant. He's an Omaha Indian from Nebraska. He grew up as a rancher on a small farm. When he was 17 years old, he decided that he wanted to pursue higher education. But at that time, natives were not allowed to pursue higher education in Nebraska. So he'd heard of an Indian school in the Southwest. So he left a note for his parents when they went to town, and he set off towards Phoenix. He walked for 49 days and arrived in Phoenix with $19 in his pocket. He then proceeded to become a theologian, an attorney, and an activist in the civil rights movement and founding American Indian Centers nationwide. Until he fell in love with a Navajo woman and moved to Chinle, where they lived on a ranch. And, Leon just passed away about maybe 10 days ago. And so I just feel so honored that I had the opportunity to meet him. This is a photo of my niece, Anna Cook. She's 16 years old. She's Swinomish, Wallapai, Havasupai, Cherokee, Chemehuevi, and Scowlitz. We can thank the boarding school system for that. While I was interviewing her, I asked her, Anna, when did you first become aware of race? And suddenly Anna starts to cry. And I'm like, oh no, don't cry. And she says, Matika, it's not about when I became aware of race. It's about how aware of race I am every day. You see, every day she walks into the lunchroom and she has to decide, will she sit on the left side of the room with the Indians? Will she sit on the right side of the room with the white kids? She said, Matika, if you really want to know about racism, all you have to do is visit a public school. You can see segregation. Isn't she beautiful? This is Marva Cinquatessa Jones. Marva is Tolowa, and she's rad. You'd love her. You'll notice her 111 tattoo. When I asked her about its significance, she said, I always knew I wanted to get my 111, especially after learning the history of it being outlawed in California. She tells me that tattooing was outlawed in the early 1900s. She said that learning about it empowered her to get her 111. It was traditionally applied through the tapping method. And she says, for me, it signifies my commitment to who I am. It signifies my ability to carry forward my ancestors' message and the work that my people have laid for my community. When I first got the tattoo, I wasn't really prepared for people's reaction. I wasn't prepared for the way that they would stare at me. Sometimes they'd acknowledge me. They'd say, nice tattoo, sister. But other times, I'd hear them whisper, who is that freak? I thought that people knew that it was tribal. So I guess we have a lot of teaching left to do. This is the lovely Dr. Mary Evelyn Belgard from the Pueblo of Isleta and Okeawinge. Mary is a retired professor of Indian education from the University of New Mexico, and she's very passionate about training teachers to work within indigenous communities. And you go over to Mary's house, and she is just the sweetest thing. She will have you, sit down, like a Pueblo person says, and she serves you delicious coffee and green chili and Pueblo bread, and you feel all happy and warm because you're at your grandma's house. And then she will explain the entire history of boarding schools and governmentally engineered education systems and colonization. And one of the things that she said that really struck me was, when are we going to stop asking our children to choose between cultural education and Western education? I think we are ready to stop the assimilation process. The time to change is now. So the bad thing about traveling is that I get to visit places that are creating the solution to what we're talking about. Here's one of those places very close to where Desi lives. Oh, that's a sign. That's a sign.
My name is Pierre. I think that one day the language is going to be the salvation of our people.
Today we're visiting Pat Pierre at the Nkusum Salish Immersion School, located in Arlee, Montana, on the Salish Kootenai Reservation.
Talking to respect, come through request, Gospel Fluency, Silverman. Good morning. Good morning. I am six. I'm from the Salish people. I'm from the Salish people.
Because I was always interested in listening to my language spoken, and it's so precise, so matter of fact, that it is good just to listen. They may come over and they may ask me, "You know your language?" Yes, I do. "You know your culture?" Yes, I do. "You know your traditional ways?" Yes, I do. I said, we need to push on this language thing. We need to keep it going, because it may be the salvation of our tribes.
That song always fires me up a little bit. Okay. You can clap if you want. I just want to make sure you're always still out there, you know. You look like you could be sleeping anyway. No, look. All right, look. This is my good friend, Desi Small Rodriguez. Her Cheyenne name is Mukshiut. It means Bearman woman. She's a member of the Northern Cheyenne tribe. And, oh, Desi's fierce. You know she's fierce. She has a master's degree from Stanford in sociology, social stratification, and inequality. She works as a senior policy analyst in the research and statistics team at the Ministry of Maori Development in New Zealand, where she's working on her PhD. And one of the questions that I ask my participants is if there are any interesting details about their tribe that they would like to share. Maybe some details that aren't shared in the history books. And Desi said, they call us the Fighting Cheyenne. And they call us the Fighting Cheyenne because we fought for everything that we have here today. I've grown up knowing that we are here because 300 of our people made it back from Oklahoma. They escaped in the middle of winter after being forced into Indian territory. They were dying of famine and disease. So 2 of our chiefs, Dullknife and Little Wolf, decided that they were going to make a run for freedom. And if they died along the way, at least they died trying to get home. It's this really amazing tale of survival of what a people would do to be at home. Only 300 made it. They were chased by the cavalry the entire time. And for me, that is not history. That's a reality that our people still live with. It shapes your entire life, knowing every day that our ancestors died for us to be here. And I think it really tells the strength of the Cheyenne people. This is a photo of Jenny Parker and her granddaughter Charlize. And one of the questions that I ask participants, especially elders, is if there is anything that they would like me to share for them in situations like this. And Jenny said, yes. Tell them about the 19 women that have gone missing in Cheyenne territory in the last 5 years, all of which remain unsolved. Tell them about my daughter, who was one of those women. Ask them if it matters to them. Ask them if they are willing to stand with us. It's a known fact that 3 out of 4 Native women will experience domestic violence or sexual assault in her lifetime. And this statistic is not from the out there category, some other, happening on some other continent. It's our mothers, our aunties, our cousins, our sisters. And so today I ask you, does it matter to you? How do we come together to change that? Because really, I don't know the answers to those things. And so I thought, even though, it's really uncomfortable for me to bring that up because I don't have the answers, I still think it's important to pose the question. This is Christian. He also goes by Superman. And he's a dedicated musician, dancer, husband, father, and suicide prevention worker, and he's Crow. And when I asked him why he chose to stay on the res, he says, everybody talks about the res like, oh man, I hate this place. I gotta get out of here. Not me, man. I love Crow country. It's beautiful. The Creator put the crows right in the right place for our people. Raymond Mapes is one of my heroes. I didn't know it until I met him. I didn't know that the sacrifices he'd made had already impacted my life. You see, he was arrested 19 times for fishing on the Klamath River. He belongs to the Yurok tribe, and he was one of the first to challenge the U.S. government for fishing rights. He brought his case all the way to the Supreme Court. He told me about the turning point in that case of how they had laid out their set net, and that the feds were there with their big guns, as were the reporters with their cameras, all waiting for them to go pick their net. And he knew that if he went to pick his net, he'd be thrown in jail again. And actually, Raymond has all gold teeth. And so they were sitting on the shore, watching all of the commotion. And their corks were bobbing, and they knew that they were about to lose their net. And so finally his grandma said, God, enough of this, I'll do it. And so she got into her little canoe, her little one-woman canoe, and she paddled out singing a little longer song. And she began picking the net. And of course then came the feds with their enormous guns demanding that she stop. And then came the reporters with their cameras and went on the cover of Time magazine. Then they ended up winning their court case. And you see, it was his case law that was used in the Judge Bolt decision, and which gave tribes 50% of the fish and game and wildlife. And my parents are commercial fishermen. So for me, I just felt so honored to get to thank Raymond for his bravery. And several others have contributed to the resurgence of Salish Sea culture. Every year, Coast Salish tribes participate in an annual gathering called the Canoe Dirty. Young people paddle their family canoe to the chosen host tribe, which alternates, kind of like the Olympics. Sometimes the paddling can take up to 45 days, and along the way, different tribes will host them. It's an opportunity for daily participation in cultural resurgence for our young people, and an opportunity to practice some of our spiritual traditions on a daily basis. And once we arrive to the host destination, we'll go through protocol, which is we ask permission to come ashore, the community will feed us, and then a week of potlatching proceeds. Songs and dances are shared by each canoe family, and there's a giveaway, of course. And one of the founders of this movement is Bill James from Lummi. One of the things that Bill always talks about is wellness. He says that each new generation will have to choose. Will we become our grandparents' grandchildren? We cannot transmit something we do not have. If we would like to see our tribal communities recover from the effects of colonization, historical trauma, and the harsh realities of cultural genocide, then we first have to recover. If we would like to see representation change in massive media, we have to support new representations. If we would like to see revitalization of culture, we have to do that in our own lives. We have to become the wellness that we would like to see in our own community. And so, in my travels, I have come across so many young people that are working towards that exact thing, and here's one of them.
My name is Regis Cook. I'm from the Onondaga Nation Territory. It's located up in upstate New York. And we call this in our language Kanaktakweniyoke. Some people call it Onondage, which means on the hill. Kanaktakweniyoke, that translates to like the main village or the main town. Because they say this is the capital of the Six Nations Haudenosaunee Confederacy. When we do our ceremonies, it's not in English, it's in the language. That's the only way they're going to understand the procedures and the right way of doing things. And I think if more of our people knew the language, then their life would be easier. They wouldn't be like, they would understand. We wouldn't have all of these problems, I think, like suicide and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's a good life. If you understand the language, some of the stuff that's like that we say when we have Longhouse, it's real beautiful. Because we're the original people of this land, we're not Europeans. They want us to be like them, but before they came here, we had our own ways and our ancestors. Some tribes lost their stuff, but the Haudenosaunee, the people of the Longhouse, we fought hard to keep that. And that's why I do what I do, because I think of all them ancestors that aren't here, and they left us what they could, and we're pretty fortunate to have all the stuff that they left us. You know what I mean? The traditions, the Longhouse is still here, and our babies still get up in Indian names, and we still dance the 4 sacred ceremonies that the Creator gave us. We still put them through.
So Regis is only 22 years old, maybe now 22, and I think that's incredible. You know, Regis decided not to leave Onondaga. He decided to stay and become one of the people that carries forward all of the songs for their Longhouse, and it's a major responsibility. And I was just really, I personally was really blown away by the dedication that requires to learn those thousands and thousands of songs. So these are my sisters, Dark Feather, Bibiana, and Chetta from Tulalip, and my nephew Echoes. And B says, maintaining our culture and traditions roots us in our ways so that we will always know who we are. When we know who we are protected by our teachings. Our teachings guide us. They carry us through hardships. They will give us intuition. Traditional teachings are what will preserve and protect our future generations. This is the lovely Dr. Jessica Metcalf from Turtle Mountain, Chippewa. And she runs the Beyond Buckskin Boutique. And one of the things that I ask people when I'm working with them is, you know, how do we navigate the contemporary and traditional world? And she says, when people say we live in two worlds, that is not how we understand it up north. We do not live in two worlds. We are not split in half. We do not strip our Indianness and leave it at the door when we walk into a grocery store or an academic situation. We are who we are wherever we walk, and we carry all of that with us wherever we go. The fact is that we need Native people everywhere, in every field. So if you are passionate about becoming a lawyer or a doctor or a fashion designer or a filmmaker, do it. Whatever your strengths are, whatever your passions are, pursue them. Turn your passions into your career. And the very fact that you are a Native American is going to add so much to that field. We need representation everywhere because we are so vastly underrepresented. We need you. This is one of my favorite favorite Cherokees of all time. Her name is Dr. Keene, Dr. Adrienne Keene, and I'm not going to give you her full bio because I hope you got to see her this morning, and she's sitting right there, so it's kind of weird to talk about her when she's sitting right there. But I do want to read to you one of my favorite blog posts that she wrote, in an excerpt from it, and it's called Why Tanto Matters. And she says, we are taught every day, explicitly in classrooms and implicitly through messages from the media, that our cultures are something of the past, something that exists in negative contrast to Western values, and something that can be commodified and enjoyed by anyone with $20 to buy a cheap plastic headdress. The stereotypical images like Johnny Depp's Tonto feed into this ongoing cycle, and until we demand more, our contemporary existence and therefore the real problems in Indian country simply don't exist in the minds of dominant culture. How can we expect mainstream support for sovereignty, self-determination, nation-building, tribally controlled education, healthcare, and jobs when 90% of Americans only view Native people as one-dimensional stereotypes situated in the historic past, or even worse, situated in their imaginations? I argue that we can't. And that, to me, is why Tanto matters. Boom. She said that. It's so funny that you're there. Okay, moving on. So, I recently just came out here from Navajo country, from Dene country, excuse me, Navajos in the room, I know you're here. And these women are organizing to oppose fracking in Navajo Nation. And when I went to visit them, it was like snowing, it was cold, they were camping in teepees, and they were telling me that as they were walking along the route where the proposed oil line is going to go in, that every sixth of a mile there was another one of those, what are those things called that are burning? I'm talking about the thing with the burning. And she says, one of the things that I was most moved by is that this walk really is led by Navajo women. They walked 226 miles recently. And Kim, she says, it is my responsibility as a Dene woman. This is modern scouting, to defend our communities and Mother Earth from injustices of the oil industry and from other injustices in our communities. We have to walk, see, explore. Violence on our land is violence to us. We could see it and feel it as we walked through. We have responsibilities as mothers and daughters. In our community, female leadership is frowned upon, but women lead this movement. We have to go back to our holy people. It's a different discipline and courage, but we're ready. 85% of Navajo Nation's revenue comes from the extractive industries. We need alternatives. We carry the Southwest on our backs. There would be no Super Bowl without us, she says. And so they're preparing on March 21st to walk again. They're going to walk 227 miles from Mount Taylor to another sacred mountain that's 226 miles away, and they're seeking people to walk with them. So I'm sharing that message with all you. Put on your hiking shoes. This is Tatanka Means. Is it? What do we have here? Nope. He's Oglala Lakota Omaha and Navajo from Chinle, and he's the son of the late Russell Means. And I'll tell you, when we went out there, when we went out to Lakota country, I was like, I heard you guys eat puppy out here. And he was like, yeah, well, you want some? I was like, yeah, I guess. It's not horse, but I'll have some puppy. And for those of you Navajos know, for real, when I was out there with the walkers, they actually fed me horse stew. I don't know if that's something that happens a lot in Navajo Nation, but I ate it. It was super delicious. And then afterwards, I found out that it was horse. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. So of course, you go up there and you're like, yeah, I definitely want to eat some puppy. And so they rounded up all the res dogs. And then they went into the city and they rounded up a bunch of city dogs just chilling out. And they had this beautiful tandoori oven and they put them all in there and they just sort of put them all in there. And first came out the city dogs, and they were delicious, like chicken, super delicious. And then of course, out comes the res dog. And you know what that res dog said? He said, "Oh, that was a good sweat." That's Tatanka's joke. That's one of them. Okay. Anyways, one of the things, here's the thing about stereotypes and working against them. And one of the things that I ask people, do you walk the red road? Do you drink? And he says, no, I do not drink. I do not do drugs. It's part of my way of life. It's a part of my own personal beliefs. I've seen the effects of drugs and alcohol on my own reservation, surrounding me and my community. And I just don't want to live life like that. I guess I tried it out when I was in high school, but nothing good ever came from that. With the help and guidance from my parents and family, I came to my own realization that nothing positive would ever come from it. So I just decided to quit. That was about 11 years ago. I haven't drank or done any drugs since. I try to give a positive message of leaving drugs and alcohol alone, but I can't just talk about it. I have to actually do it. And I love that Tatanka lets me say that out loud in public forums like this, because one of the things that I hear quite often is people want to know why so many Indians are drunks. I mean, it's when I go and present in public schools to all Belgard audiences, I get that question on a regular basis. And one of the things that Native Wellness Institute does out of Portland, they talk about that. They say, here's an interesting fact about drugs and alcohol in Indian country. We do have a lot of people that have problems with it, but we also have the highest number of abstinence in our communities. And of all of the people that I interview and photograph, I would say in my own, like 900 interviews, more than half of them have told me that they don't drink at all, ever. So, something to think about. So anyways, I was in Albuquerque, and there's 21 tribes in New Mexico, and I was worried about who I was going to photograph once I got there, because I'm from the Northwest, I'm not from the Southwest. And as I was pulling into Albuquerque, I put it on Facebook that I'd arrived, and suddenly I realized I knew loads of people. And my friend Dana's mom is Navajo, and she says, "Come on, Matika, I'm going to come introduce you to the real Indians." Because Navajos always think they're the real Indians. And, I told Valerie that I really, I was like, okay, I'm ready. So we hop in a truck, and we drive down a dirt road for like 3 hours until we finally arrived here at Ray and Fanny Mitchell's house. Ray and Fanny are 82 and 83 years old. They've been married for 65 years. They only speak Dene, and their daughter translated for me. And this picture was taken at their sheep camp where they live without running water. Fanny is a weaver. She shears wool from the sheep, spins and hand dyes the wool to create beautiful Navajo rugs. And Ray worked for the railroad for most of his life, but he's now retired to ranch life. And when I went to visit them, it was my birthday, and I was feeling so sorry for myself, because it's not like I was going to drop it like it's hot in a hogan, and so what they did? They how do you say, sacrificed, killed? They killed a sheep. And butchered, thank you. Thanks, Adrian. I just said sacrifice. I'm sorry, Navajos, I know you're in here. But it was so beautiful. It really was. They made mutton stew, and she made me handmade tortillas. And they prayed for me, for my life, for the next year. And it was really one of the most beautiful birthdays I've ever had. And so that's my experience with mutton. So I was headed to Havasupai, which is the tribe at the bottom of the famous Grand Canyon. And after I received permission from the council to go there, the vice chairman, Matthew Putsoy, was appointed to be my ambassador in this photo. And so I called Matthew, and we were discussing how I get into the Grand Canyon. And he said, well, do you ride horses? And I said, I'm from the Northwest. I paddle in a canoe. And he said, okay, well, you hike, right? And I said, yeah, I hike. He said, cool, it's only 12 miles. I was like, 12 miles? I have camera equipment. And he said, okay, fine, we'll put you on a helicopter. And so So to get here, all you have to do is drive up old Route 66, and you'll see an old sign that says "Have a Soup Right." Well, you know what? It used to say "Have a Soup Right." Now it's just sort of like a white sign with some chip paint, but you'll see it. Don't worry. And turn right there, and drive until you see. Just drive and drive and drive about 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 miles, 7 miles at most, until you see a helicopter. And when you get there, just show him your tribal ID, and he'll let you on, and he'll bring you down. And I was like, really? No Expedia? You know, like, and so I did just that. I went down the road, I saw the sign, I took the ride, I got to the helicopter, I got in, I showed him my tribal ID, he put me on the helicopter, we drove into the canyon, and they were just waiting for me. Time is totally different there. There was no appointment, but they were waiting for me. Somehow they knew I was coming, and I was scared. I gotta tell you, like there's these moments. I have these moments where I'm like, I just don't know what's gonna happen because I'm traveling alone, and I don't know what it's gonna be like when I get there. And I've been told that courage is not the absence of fear, but doing it anyways. And so that's sort of been my mantra, like, I'm just gonna do it anyways. And the experience has been like this, that I get there and they're waiting for me, and there's love and kindness there and open arms. And this photo was taken at about 11 o'clock at night after a full day of shooting at the waterfalls in the canyon and all around the beautiful village. Go see it if you get a chance. It's so beautiful. And the next day I took this photo. This is Rex to Lucy, and Rex is a Havasupai elder, and he's a medicine man and a culture bearer. And when Benji took me over to Rex's house, he was super hesitant to talk with me because at one point surveyors came into the canyon and said that they were going to be testing for diabetes, and then attempted to use those blood samples to prove that the Supai weren't from that place so that they could remove them from the canyon. And so I didn't set up my microphone or take out my camera. I just sat and visited with Rex for a while. And I told Rex that I too had grown up on the res, that I too have attempted to understand what that means. And that I too was attempting to do something good for our people. And we laughed about how we don't like kids, both being teachers. I'm just kidding. And finally, after Rex asked me if I could make fry bread, and I made him some, and he liked it, he said, "All right, you can take my picture." And I took this photo, and I said, "Rex, what would you like me to tell the people?" And he said, "Remind them that we all come from the same Mother Earth. I think they may have forgotten. Tell them that all of us, the brown, the red, the yellow, the purple, we are all of the same place. And our job is to take care of our mother. But mostly, tell them we survived and we're not going anywhere." And so later after that afternoon, as I drove out of the canyon and eventually on the road to come here, I have these moments where I'm just overcome by gratitude. I think of all the people that have supported my journey, and the generous Kickstarter supporters, the families that have let me sleep on their couch, and have fed me and encouraged me and prayed for me. And I realized that people are supportive of the project because they believe in the cause. Because at the core of it all, we want to remember that we belong to one another, that we're more similar than different. We want to remember to see each other as human beings. And, so it's with these stories that I share my forms of medicine and a new system of knowing and a new way of thinking about what is Indianness and a new way of appreciating and loving and valuing. And before I leave you today, I'd like to montage your mind with a new way of looking and seeing Native America. So the next time, maybe think proud or incredible Indian. Think Anishinaabe and Pima and Lummi. Think beautiful, culture-bearing activists in the 1491s. Think grandma, grandpa, auntie, cousin, chairman. Think Tlingit and Zuni and Pachanga Think powerful, persevering, and thriving. Think of Bahajoni and Peaches and Brandon and tribal royalty. Think of our musicians and our PhDs, our elders, and our fashionistas. Think loving, Paiute, Supai, Tolelo, and Crow. Think entrepreneur, filmmaker, scholar, holy man, and fisherman. Think of our superintendents. Think fierce and veteran. Think of our teachers. Think of our husbands and wives. So thank you. Thank you so much for letting me share with you, and I hope that you will follow the journey. She asked if people use their indigenous languages in their interviews that I conduct. So the project has several different outlets. We are publishing a book with the new press. We're working on a curriculum package. We're also developing an app. So with as you swipe through Instagram, you'll be able to hear sound bites from these different interviews. And when you go through the exhibition that we're working on right now, we're actually working with the city of San Francisco. We're going to do a huge show here, opening in 2017 with the city. But a huge part of this is having the oral narratives as a part of the exhibition. So when you walk through, you can sort of like put on the headphones and listen. So some people choose to do their interviews in their language. Other people choose to do it in English. It's really about how the participant cares to share. Jenny Parker, the one that I showed you from Northern Cheyenne, she did everything in both languages. And so I try to be as objective as possible when I allow people to share their story. And I think it's really important. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.